My name is Shahar Azani, and I'm the Executive Director for the Northeast region of Stand With Us, a 16-year-old Israel education organization dedicated to support Israel and share Israel's incredible story around the world. I think tonight we are doing just that. In 1948, the earth shook, and after thousands of years of exile, the Jewish state of Israel was reborn and reappeared on world stage. It was then that we witnessed the wings of eagles spreading all over the globe, soaring through the skies and carrying with them the Jewish people from the four corners of the earth, coming back home after thousands of years of yearning. Tonight, we are celebrating one such hero, retired Captain Elgen Long, who found himself flying heroically with Alaska Airlines, none other, on a mission to rescue the Jewish Yemenite refugees on the other side of the world and bring them home to Israel. His acts of bravery and participation in this grand operation played a significant part in the survival of the Yemenite Jewish community, who is thriving today more than ever before in Israel and throughout the world. Elgen changed so many lives. Elgen changed mine. I told Elgen when I met him, Elgen, without you, I would not be. It's not that I wouldn't be a lawyer or a doctor or a diplomat or a lover of Israel. I simply would not be. And for that, I shall forever be eternally grateful. Tonight, we have the pleasure of thanking Captain Long, to express our profound gratitude as a nation, as a people, as a state. Tonight, we are also extremely honored and privileged to have with us Minister Ofir Akunis, Israel's Minister of Science, Space, and Technology, who made his way all the way from Israel to be with us. Minister Akunis was born in Tel Aviv in May of 1973. He is married to Adi and father to Yonatan and Ronnie. In 2004, he was appointed as media advisor to Netanyahu as a Minister of Finance, a position he filled until 2008, when he was appointed Deputy Director of Communication and Information for the Likud. Akunis is considered to be an extremely active member of Knesset. He was elected to the 18th Knesset in 2009. Between 2009 and 2010, he headed the Knesset Economic Affairs Committee. He worked largely with Israeli and foreign media in order to stand up for Israel against the industry of lies that spreads the propaganda against the Jewish state. In 2013, after having been elected to a second term in the Knesset, Akunis was appointed Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's office, and at the end of 2014, appointed as Acting Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and as Minister of Science, Technology, and Space as of September 2015. Minister Akunis, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Please.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. Shalom. My friends, first of all, I am very, very honored to be here, and it's a huge privilege. I would like to begin by sharing an important and relevant verse of the Torah, and it goes like this. ואשא אתכם על כנפי נשרים ואביא אתכם אליי. And in English we translate this as and how I bore you on eagle's wings and I brought you to me. This was God's promise to bring Jews from all over the world to their ancient homeland. And with this mind, few people know that the transport and the historic rescue of the Yemenite Jews in Operation Eagle's Wings Kanfei Nesharim. It's from the Torah. It's beautiful. So this operation was carried out by Alaska Airlines, and its CEO who did this against the orders of the board of the company, because he wanted to save Jews. This was despite the fact that no one at the company, including the leadership or the pilots, was even Jewish. Tonight, as a member of the Israeli cabinet and as an official representative of the state of Israel, I am truly proud to stand next to Elgen Long. Where is he? Where is he? Where are you? There. It was a great honor to meet you, really. And I think that Elgen is a true hero of the Jewish people because he receives this incredible honor from Stand With Us for piloting an aircraft in many missions to bring our people home for Yemen, China, and elsewhere. This is also an opportunity to thank Alaska Airlines. Their courageous pilots and crews faced incredible dangers, risking their own lives with the only mission of saving Jews from certain death and reuniting the Jewish people in their ancient homeland. And this is really incredible story, both of them. Your story, Elgen, the pilot story, and the story of the nation of the Jewish people. I am also proud to be with the Stand With Us. I want to say a few words about the Stand With Us. You know that they change the whole story. Why? Because they're telling the truth. And as we know, we are facing a lot of lies, especially about the state of Israel. And when the people of Stand With Us standing and saying the truth all over, and I know that it's difficult. I know that it's difficult. It's more comfortable to tell the lies, and it's so easy to tell lies against Israel and against the Jewish people. So tonight, I salute Stand With Us. As a Minister of Science, as a minister in the Israeli cabinet, and as an Israeli, I recognize the important role Stand With Us has in promoting Israel's, also not only the true, but also promoting Israel's innovations and technological contributions to the world, and we are very proud. We are very proud to lead the world with science, technology, and innovation. Yeah, we can applaud to the people of Israel, to the minds, to the great minds that we have in Israel. I want to use this opportunity to thank Rose Rothstein, the CEO of Stand With Us, Shahar Azani, for the incredible work he is doing at North Hest Director, and all of the staff and supporters of this critical organization. I welcome you all to visit Israel, to see yourself as part of the amazing achievements of the country has made in science and technology in recent history. As Israel turns 70 this year, I am not only excited about what we have achieved, but what we are going to do next. Thank you very much. Toda rabba. And Shana v'chatima tova lekulam. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Minister Akunis. We're honored to have you here as a representative of the people of Israel and the government of Israel, and we're very much aware that as an active member of Knesset, minister, and representative of Israel abroad, you have to run. So thank you very much for dignifying us. Last year, in a casual conversation during Passover with my dear friend, at the time Consul General of Israel in San Francisco, Dr. Andy David, he told me that he just recently returned from a visit to Anchorage, Alaska. I said, well, that sounds lovely. I wish I could go to Alaska at some point. He said, well, you know, one of the most amazing places there is the Alaska Jewish Museum. Oh, that sounds fabulous, I told him. A Jewish museum in Alaska sounds amazing. Really, I really do have to go there. What do they show? A moose with a kippah? He said, no, actually, the featured exhibit there is about Yemenite Jews returned to Israel. Okay, now that makes sense. Why would the Alaska Jewish Museum has an exhibit about Yemenite Jews who are coming back? Don't get me wrong, I love it, but... To which he said, well, you know, it's amazing. And again, my family came on those flights. It was Alaska Airlines that was behind the airlifting of Yemenite Jews to Israel from Aden, including bringing Jews from Shanghai, from China to Israel, which to me was an amazing fact. At which point, I must admit, being Shahar, I called Alaska Airlines headquarters and said, hello, my name is Shahar Azani. I just wanted to ask a question. After about 3 sentences, the assistant said, well, I'll give you an email. You can send it to us. And 3 months later, we were hosted at the Alaska Jewish Museum by Leslie Freed, the curator of the museum, who's here with us tonight. Alaska Airlines representative, the mayor, and the leaders of the Jewish community for an event that focused on gratitude. Thank you for bringing back the Jews home. Thank you for bringing my family home. And tonight, I have the distinct honor to have with us a representative for Alaska Airlines. Tim Thompson has served as manager of public affairs for Alaska Airlines for the past 6 years. He is responsible for community, media, and public relations, in addition to oversight of corporate giving programs. Before joining Alaska Airlines, Tim was a partner at Thompson & Company PR, as well as served as Director of External Affairs for the Alaska Railroad Corporation and assignment manager for KTUU Channel 2 News. He holds an MBA in Telecommunication Management from Alaska Pacific University, a BA in Journalism and Public Communications. He currently serves on the board of the Anchorage Museum Association, Chamber of Commerce, Alaska Raptor Center, Special Olympics Alaska, the Foraker Group, and is the Executive Director for the Alaska Airlines Foundation. Alaska Airlines began its operations in 1932 in Anchorage, Alaska. In 85 years, it has grown to be the 5th largest airline in the nation with nearly 22,000 employees. Alaska Airlines, together with Virgin America and its regional partners, flies 40 million guests a year to 118 destinations with an average of 1,200 daily flights across the U.S. to Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica, and Cuba. As we all know, Alaska Airlines is also extremely proud of its heritage and history, including bringing the Jews back home. And tonight, it gives us great honor to bestow upon him, Tim Thompson, and Alaska Airlines, the Stand With Us Savior of Israel Award for the great deeds and the gratitude on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people, and for being there for us in our time of need. Please, Tim.
Well, this is pretty amazing. Thank you, Shahar. I really appreciate this. And on behalf of Alaska Airlines and our 22,000 teammates, we really appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here. It's my distinct honor to be here to accept the Savior of Israel Award for Operation on Wings of Eagles, or also known as Operation Magic Carpet. It's pretty amazing to see this. But first, I need to thank a few people. Shahar, thank you so much. Stand with us, Honorable Minister, distinguished and honored guests. I appreciate each and every one of you being here tonight to celebrate this with us, and also with the great deeds that Captain Long had done. So what initially started as a charter operation turned into something quite historic, a response to a humanitarian crisis, and for all who took to the air, a deeper meaning as they soared on the wings of eagles. While this award honors Alaska Airlines, it truly honors the employees. It's an affirmation of a job well done by all the men and women who took part in Operation Magic Carpet, or on the Wings of Eagles. It honors such people as James Wooten, who the minister had mentioned earlier. The president of Alaska Airlines in the late 40s played a driving force. He played an integral role to make this happen. In fact, he faced many, many difficult obstacles, internally and externally, but he persevered and he kept the operation moving forward to do the right thing. And Captain Elgen Long, there are many here tonight who I know would love to thank you. To you and all the brave men and women of this airlift, because of your dedication and determination, thousands of Yemenite Jews were able to safely arrive at their new home. And I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Leslie. Leslie, you did such a great job on this historic event. What you put together really brought it to life. Your exhibit captured the essence of the men and the women who, unbeknownst to the world, because this was a secret operation, worked tirelessly to circumvent a humanitarian crisis. Over 85 years ago, Alaska Airlines began operation with a four-seat Stinson aircraft in the territory then known as Alaska, flying fishermen, miners, trappers, families from Anchorage to Western Alaska and beyond. A job these early aviators took very, very seriously because they knew that flying was and is a lifeline. We've come a long way since that four-seat Stinson to the fifth largest domestic airline in the nation. But just like our early years, we know the importance of making sure we are keeping neighbors, families, and communities connected. At Alaska Airlines, we have 5 core values, and we strive to do them each and every day. First and foremost is safety, but be kind-hearted, deliver performance, be remarkable, and do the right thing. While they are all equally important, one that always stands out, especially tonight, is do the right thing. Every day our employees do the right thing. We reunite families. Sometimes we're a school bus. Really in Alaska, sometimes we are the school bus. Sometimes the ambulance, and sometimes provide an airlift and support for first responders and volunteers who are tending to the needs of these natural disasters that we've had in the Pacific Northwest and also in Texas and Florida. For us, do the right thing is not just a slogan. It has power and meaning, especially when we put these words into action. In today's complicated world, we look back at Operation Magic Carpet and on Wings of Eagles, and we know when we are united to do the right thing, we have the power to move mountains, we have the power to move people, and we have the power to bring joy and happiness. When we are empowered to do the right thing, we have the power to make a difference. We are humbled and grateful for this award. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again, Tim, Alaska Airlines, and to all of the Alaska Airlines crew members who could not be with us today, to whom we thank profoundly and profusely for saving our people. One of the things that Stand With Us excels in is doing the most, to some people, challengingly Jewish thing, which is working together and joining hands within our community for the greater good of Israel. Today, for this event, we partners with our great friends of the American Sephardi Federation, who are with us here tonight. Professor Ephraim Isaac, a distinguished member of the American Sephardi Federation's Board of Directors, is an Ethiopian Yemenite Jew, President Emeritus of the Yemenite Jewish Federation of America, founder of the Institute of Semitic Studies at Princeton, New Jersey, one of the founders of Harvard University's Afro-American Studies Department, and the namesake of Harvard's Ephraim Isaac Prize for Excellency in African Studies, and fellow of the Dead Sea Scrolls Foundation. Jason Guberman is the executive director of the American Sephardi Federation and coordinator of the Diarna Geo-Museum of North African and Middle Eastern Jewish Life project, which is an incredible project mapping out the Jewish life of the forgotten refugees, the Jewish communities in Arab lands. Truly a remarkable one. Please give both of them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Shahar, and thank you for the Minister Akunis, who was here, for Deputy Consul General Sagi, and all of our other distinguished friends and guests here tonight. The American Sephardi Federation, for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, is based at the Landmark Center for Jewish History, and our role at the center is to preserve and promote the rich Mosaic culture of Sephardic communities, greater Sephardi communities, from Salonika and Shanghai to Seattle and Sheepshead Bay. Our story tonight is an incredible one. And ASF is honored to stand with Shahar and stand with us, but it actually began with us sitting down at the World Jewish Congress, where ASF represents the Sephardic voice, as we do in the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. And I was, at the last minute, our board president asked me to go to represent ASF, and I sat down, and I was sitting next to Shahar, and I was looking over the materials, and we started talking, and he was starting to tell me about this story about the Yemenite Jews and Alaska Airlines. And I said, you know, we have a publication called the Sephardi World Weekly, and we featured an article on this not so long ago. So I pulled out my cell phone, I started looking it up, and sure enough, the article, which was in the Huffington Post, had been featured in the Sephardi World Weekly, and the author was Shahar Azani. Unbelievable. This event we had planned together for some time, and we were going to do it as the closing night of the New York Sephardic Jewish Film Festival, which just celebrated its 20th anniversary. A week before the event, I get a call from Shahar. I'm very, very sorry. It doesn't seem like Captain Long is going to make it. And I said, I hope he's all right. What's going on? He said, he's on an expedition in the Pacific looking for the remains of Amelia Earhart's airplane. I said, Shahar, where did you come up with this? You really expect me to believe this? But sure enough, that is also true. So tonight, we are here to honor Captain Elgen Long, who's a great man, who together with his colleagues and the remarkable entrepreneurial company, Alaska Airlines, literally realized a biblical prophecy. For thousands of years, tempest-tossed Jews throughout the diaspora have yearned to come home to Jerusalem, to come home to Israel, a reestablished Jewish state. Yemenite Jews had an early and even enviable start. As Rabbi Kapak said when speaking before the Knesset in 1982 for the 100th anniversary of the Yemenite Aliyah, we had an unbroken connection. The Yemenite, in fact, it never ceased. The Yemenite Jewry Aliyah to Israel did not start 100 years ago. It was an unbroken continuity. While Zion was always in their hearts, the Promised Land was still far away for over 50,000 Yemenite Jews who remained in Yemen in the late 1940s and early 1950s, who were under siege, who were facing riots in Aden, and it had the prospects of a grim future. For this reason, we are here tonight. We are here because the rescue of the ancient and learned Jewish community of Yemen is one of the greatest, if improbable, humanitarian success stories of all time. Captain Elgen Long and his fellow Alaska crew members, each righteous among the nations, risked their licenses. They flew more hours than they should have. They flew over capacity. Our friends from Alaska Airlines, you don't have to answer to the FAA. You know, the statute of limitations is expired. So I can say these things now. They also frequently risk their lives under enemy fire, potentially at any moment. And this was all to fulfill this prophecy, the ingathering of the exiles to the Promised Land. The American Sephardi Federation is proud to honor Captain Long with our Maimonides Friendship Award for his courage, his ingenuity, and determination to help the Jewish people. Thank you, Captain Long. I would like to invite you up, and Professor Isaac would like to say a few words about his connection to this story.
let me say that this is a great honor for me to be here tonight with one of the surviving members of the Alaska Airlines company and the pilot. And maybe I'll say a couple more words, but before I do so, I want to say just a couple of words about what this significance of this rescue is. By the way, many of you whom I met at the reception wondered what planet I came from. I come from this planet. Yeah, I don't know why many people wondered. Well, now you know I've been introduced, so I appreciate the great introduction. The rescue of Yemenite Jews is not only the rescue of Yemenite Jews as people, it is also the rescue of Judaism as we know it from the Second Temple period and from the Babylonian time. Let me just read a couple of paraphrases from two very distinguished Israeli scholars who studied Yemenite Jews when they arrived, and then I'll say a couple more words. Professor Goitain, one of the founders of Hebrew University, and he was at the Institute, he passed away many years ago, he says, "The Yemenite Jews are in every respect ordinary Jews who have always taken their full share in the development of the Jewish religion, so full a share that some believe the Yemenites to be the most Jewish of all Jews." In 1837, the first European Jews who came to Yemen went to a Yemenite synagogue, and this is what he wrote. "I am surprised, a German Jew. They all know how to read the Torah with great precision. They still retain the holy and well-founded custom that everyone who is called to read the Torah does so by himself. It's not done by a cantor. He who does not know how to read is not called to the Torah. They also have retained the good and old holy custom to recite in public the Targum, the Aramaic Targum of every biblical verse. The Torah is read in a nice and pleasant melody. They are very accurate in reading the scriptures according to ancient tradition." I can read more from what he said. But let me just make 3 points to say the rescue of Yemenite Jews is also the rescue of Judaism as we knew it 2,000 years ago. Number one, many Israeli scholars of the origin of the Hebrew writing, Hebrew alphabet, would agree with me that the Yemenite Jews were the only Jewish community in the world that preserved the reading of every letter of the Hebrew alphabet distinctly and separately. Aleph as different from Ain, He as different from He, Kaf from Kaf, and so on. I give lectures about this. I've actually, a long lecture I gave at Yale University. If you want, I can give you copies of it. I can say much more. The only community that, when they read the Torah, they specifically focusing on the dagesh, on separating all the Hebrew letters, how they were read 1,000 years ago. Secondly, they are the only Jewish community that still follow this old holy custom that Sapir refers to. When you read the Torah on Shabbat, you read it verse by verse as it's written in the Mishnah. Verse in Hebrew, verse in Aramaic, verse in Hebrew, verse in Aramaic. The only community does so. The chanting of the Yemenite Jews have been described 100 years ago by Edelson as this is the original temple chanting. I'm a professor, so don't let me talk more. So these are 3 examples. I can give you 12 examples. And if anybody is interested, I'll be glad to send you my 17-page lecture on this particular subject that I gave at Yale University about 15 years ago. But in summary, what I'm trying to say is, so what the Alaska Airlines did was not only rescuing Yemenite Jews. Today, in Israel, in the yeshivat, in many places, the way they study, as Professor Rabin says, in Europe, we didn't know how to read Aramaic, so we studied the Talmud in Yiddish. Now in Israel, they study Aramaic, like in Yemen. A lot of many of the different customs. Like for instance, many people ask me today, why are you wearing the talit? I can show you a picture of Yemenite Jews 100 years ago. A talit is a Jewish dress, and Yemenite Jews always wore it. And let me tell you this, when people ask me, why are you wearing the talit? I said, do you want me to come naked? That is a Jewish dress. But in any case, so what the Alaska Airlines did by bringing these Jews was also the rescue of Judaism itself. I am very privileged to say, I learned about Yemenite Jews when I was president of the Yemenite Jewish Federation. I even contacted your company and had some discussion with you at that time. We didn't succeed to get you to come. Now I am glad you are here. And I was also very fortunate to have written and corresponded with Robert McGuire Jr., the son of your colleague, Mr. McGuire Sr., I guess, whom I went to visit in Los Angeles some years ago. And I must say, he literally cried when we started talking. He said I was 14 years, I don't know, maybe he said he was 15 years old when his father was flying the plane. And he was so touched, he said he's never been touched by the piety of these people, by the spirituality, by the centrality of commitment to their faith and to their religion. And he started crying, I started crying. I was in his office up in Wells Fargo in Los Angeles. I don't know, he left that company now. So, and I had known about Alaska Airlines and appreciated it very much. And therefore, it is really, truly, for me, although when I was with the Yemenite Federation, we didn't get you to come, to have you come now and to see you and to also tell you. Let me finish by telling you just one little anecdote about, his son told me this, but I've read it someplace. They were not only good pilots, they were also clever pilots. In one case, when they were flying over Egypt, I understand they ran short of oil or gas. And maybe many of you have read this story, or maybe. And what happens is you or Mr. McGuire, I don't remember, had to land in Cairo, full of these Yemenite Jews dressed like this. What to do? They're taking them to Israel. So they had to land. They had no choice. But then they immediately got the idea of when the police came, they said, don't come in. Everybody has a smallpox. We don't want you to be infected. We run short of gas. Just give us gas. We want to get out of here as far as. If this is a true story, I don't know. So it's as I said, if I keep talking, it will be very long. It's a great pleasure to meet you and to be able to also join the American Sephardic Federation.
Well, I'm honored, and it's nice to be 90 years old and receive an honor. I'm honored that you're all here tonight. Thank you very much for coming. I was just one man on the crew. I was not the captain at that time. I was the navigator. The only privilege the navigator had, he could tell the captain where to go and get away with it. But we were flying for Alaska Airlines, and Mr. Wooten was our president at the time, and he had a vision of all the people after World War II that were displaced would need to be replaced. And he arranged for Alaska Airlines to have the airplanes and hire the crew, and I was hired as one of the navigators to help them fly over the oceans. And I was based in New York for a few months, and then they transferred me to Everett, Washington to fly the North Pacific Ocean for them. And one time on my first flight in January of 1949, I was flying to Tokyo, Japan. We arrived in Japan, and another crew picked up the airplane and flew it back towards the United States. While we were there in Japan waiting for the next airplane to come in that we could take back to the United States, Our captain, Larry Curry, received a message that told him, don't come back to the United States with the airplane, go to Hong Kong and check into Kai Tak Airport and check into the hotel in Kowloon, the hotel there, and wait for further orders. And that's what we did. We were there for 2 weeks when we finally got orders to take the airplane that was brought in and take it to Shanghai, China. And our mission was to pick up white Russian Jews who were in the ghetto, had been in the ghetto in Shanghai until the end of the World War II. And now the forces of the Chinese communists were approaching Shanghai, and they wanted to go to Israel and make their aliyah to Israel. And we had 48 seats, and they arranged for 48 passengers. When the passengers came out, we were very surprised to see them. They were only allowed 44 pounds of baggage. They came out, it wasn't cold, but they had on a shirt and a sweater and a coat and an overcoat and 3 or 4 hats on their head. They were doing as many of the things with them that they possibly could on the plane. And we loaded them up, and we had a problem with them though. When they came to China, they were not citizens of China. As a matter of fact, they were stateless. They didn't have passports, and it was very difficult to move them internationally without a passport or without any state to represent them. In order to protect them, we felt that we should land at it was a U.S. airplane. We should only land at airports in countries that were comfortable with the United States and needed our help, and we were willing to give it to them, and they didn't want to do anything to upset that. And then we were also told that we could land at any British Royal Air Force station, that they would pass us on through, service our plane, and let us go on with stateless passengers. We finally found a route that we could take from Shanghai, but we had to fly nonstop to Bangkok. And I write about it in the book. We didn't know how we could get to Bangkok without landing in Shanghai at Hong Kong to get more fuel unless we flew direct. But we took off out of Shanghai. It was going to be dark by the time we got to Vietnam and Cambodia, where we had to fly over to go direct. And they would not accept any flights over there at night. And you had to fly around. So we filed our flight plan to fly around, but we didn't have enough fuel really to do that. The captain agreed, and we went direct. It was dark, they didn't have any radar, and there was no other airplanes flying, so we just flew direct, and it saved us about 30% of the mileage. So I added 30% to our airspeed and reported as if we were going around like we were supposed to. And we arrived at Bangkok, they didn't seem to know the difference, so we got away with that. But from there we went to the Dum Dum RAF station at Calcutta, and then to Bombay, and then to Kormaksar Airport in RAF station in Aden. And from there we were going nonstop over to Tel Aviv, which was then Lydda, we called the airport. But the problem was we couldn't fly over any Muslim country. As a matter of fact, the British warned us, if you have to land because of engine failures or because of something that demanded that you land, do not land at one of the Arab countries or your passengers will never see the light of day again. You may survive after being incarcerated there for a while, but they will not. It would be much better if you could find a ship, maybe of a British registry or some country besides an Arab country, and ditch the airplane and let them rescue you. And so that's what we were told was our due. So in order to not be detected, We took off out of Aden, and we'd fly offshore where people couldn't see us. We were far enough offshore, and we'd come to Purim Island. And Purim Island was at the bottom of the Red Sea. And now the trick was there was no electronic navigation in those days. There was no LORAN, there was no GPS or anything like that. We used celestial. And I was a navigator, and I have my octant here. And we flew up the middle of the Red Sea, so they couldn't see us from either way, and they didn't have radar in those days, so they didn't know we were there. When we came to the end top of the Red Sea by the Negev, we turned right and went into the Gulf of Aqaba and stayed in the center of the Gulf of Aqaba till we came to Eilat. Well, what they call it Eilat now, they called it Rush at that time, I believe, and that was Israel territory. From there, we could turn up and head to Beersheba, and we would be over Israeli-controlled territory and be safe to fly up there. From Beersheba, we would go direct to Lydda and land at Lydda with our passengers. We made it successfully. And in fact, when we got there with our crew and whatnot, we took rest, and then we returned back to Shanghai again, and we made another trip. And we made 2 trips that way over a period of a couple of weeks. It was a very difficult trip for our passengers because we never stopped and rested. We just kept going. And if you can imagine, it took 3 to 4 days, and it was very difficult for them to stay closed up in that airplane that long. But it was necessary, and they did it very gracefully, and we were very grateful for them to be able to do that. After the second trip, we arrived, we went to the hotel, and we didn't know what to do, so we were waiting for orders. And we got orders to leave our 2 stewardesses, they called them flight attendants, stewardesses in those days, to leave them in Tel Aviv, and for us to return to Kormaksar and Aden and wait for further orders. We didn't know it, but the British had contacted Israel and told them that there were Yemenite Jews who were arriving and walking into Aden across the desert from wherever they lived, and they were arriving, and they had about 2,000 of them there at that time. They couldn't take care of them. Some of them were sick. They didn't have medical care. There was no camp or anything to keep them, and they were in danger of dying from starvation or thirst or the whatever, malaria or whatever the disease was. And the British told them, we have to get them out of here somehow. And we didn't know anything about it, but we flew into Kormaksar, and we were surprised that the commanding officer met us when we got off the airplane on the ramp. And he said, I have a problem, and we want you to help us. We have Yemenite Jews here who are very, very desperate to get out of here before they die or before they're killed. We've already lost about 80, and we have 2,000 we need to move. How many can you carry and fly to Tel Aviv, to Lydda? And we told them, well, we had 48 seats, and we could carry any child under 2 could be carried on the lap of their parents. And so whatever that meant, and he said, well, that's all you can fly? Yes. Well, we could carry more weight, but we don't have any room for them. He's told us this is a matter of life or death to these people. Can you figure out some way that you could carry some more? Well, he said, he asked me, how much gas would we need? And I said, about 2,400 gallons. And he asked the mechanic that was with us, how much of the oil and spare parts do we have in the belly weigh? And that weighed about 2,100 pounds. He said, well, we could carry about a 12,000 pound payload. How much do the passengers weigh? And he said, well, they're very slight. They are starving. Some of them haven't eaten in a week. Some of them are sick and don't want to eat. And they are going to die here if you can't get them out as quickly as possible. Well, we can carry 12,000 pounds. How much do they weigh? And he said, well, they're rather slight people, and none of them are heavy, and they don't even have shoes. Most of them are only half dressed, and many of them are children, babies even. I would say, the captain said, of the station said, I think they weigh maybe about 80 pounds on average, including the children. Well, we can carry 12,000 pounds. We could carry 150 as far as weight is concerned. But I don't think we could get 150 people in the airplane. And one of our other crew members suggested, well, if we take the seats out, they'd have more room. And the captain said, well, that's fine, except that if they'd all decided, if we had 12,000 pounds of freight, we could tie them down. But if there's no seats, if they all decided to go to the back of the airplane and have a meeting, we'd lose control of the airplane and crash. And it was suggested then, well, we could put a cargo net up at the rear of the entrance door and tie it up and have their rabbi tell them, don't anybody touch that cargo net or go back behind it. So you have to stay in front of it. And so that's what we did. So we decided we had to take off in the cool of the morning before the sun came up and while at the lowest temperatures so we could get airborne with that much weight. And so we went to the hotel and rested for a few hours. And we told him, have the people out at 5 o'clock in the morning and we'll load the airplane and we'll take off just before sunrise when it's the coolest and about 6 o'clock. So we came out to the airport after a few hours sleep and the passengers were there. But they were all in the ramp and they didn't want to get on the airplane. By the way, the picture you saw showed them having ramps to go up. We didn't have any of that. This was before anything was organized. This was really almost the first flights of them had been made. All we had was a ladder for them to climb up. And they'd lift the children. They wouldn't want to go. They didn't want to get on the airplane. And then the rabbi reminded them of the script, the Torah that told them that they were going to return on the wings of an eagle. This was their wings of the eagle. Now they wanted to get on. And we managed to get all 150 of them on the airplane. It was jammed. We kind of had to push a little bit with the last few that got in. We got the doors shut, and we got the engine started, and we taxied out and took off and made a successful nonstop flight to Tel Aviv with them, to Lydda. And that was the first nation we did. But we only had 150 of about 2,000 that were there, and every one of them needed to be removed. So it was only natural to go back and get some more. And so we just got fueled and took off, and we had a fuel problem. They didn't have fuel for us at Cormaxor, so we had to go via Asmara in Eritrea in Africa and refuel, and then take an extra 400 gallons to fly to Cormaxor, so we'd have enough fuel then to fly back to Tel Aviv again. And we got back there before 5 o'clock in the morning, and they had another 150 ready for us. And by the way, it was the Sabbath the first time we flew, and they didn't want to fly, but the rabbi told them they had checked with the head rabbi in Tel Aviv, and it was a matter of life and death. It was okay for them to fly on the Sabbath, and then it was all okay. We got there next morning about 5. They loaded them up again. At 6 o'clock we took off. We did that for 7 days straight. We never got off the airplane except to offload or load or fuel it. We had a couple of bunks on the airplane, and we kept at least 2 people awake at all times, but we slept when we could, whenever I would sleep whenever I didn't need to take a shot, and they'd wake me up when it was time to take another celestial observation. I would like to show you a couple of things, and this all happened 69 years ago. I just had my 90th birthday a little while back. And I feel so honored that I lived to be 90. I was only 21 years old at the time, and I'd already been through a war, and I had over 100 missions during the war. In World War II, I was in the Navy, and I was a radio operator and a navigator in the Navy, and a bombardier. And anyway, the thing of the operation was, it wasn't me. I was just one of the crew. There was 6 of us all together, and we worked as a team. And of course, the captain was a leader, and we were all, most of us, veterans, and we learned to take orders and not question them. And I have to give Captain Curry much of the credit, but every member of that crew, not a one ever complained that we flew for 7 days straight without ever stopping just to refuel or to load or unload the passengers. And we managed over a period of 12 trips to move 1,800 people. And then we were required to go back to the United States. And I never returned to Israel after that. I flew and because of our flights were illegal, Alaska Airlines was penalized. And they were penalized not to fly out of the territory of Alaska, except for a few flights to Washington, Seattle, Washington. And so they didn't need navigators because they weren't flying internationally anymore. And so I went to work for another airline that was just starting to fly across the North Atlantic. You may have heard of it. It's called El Al. Anyway, what I really wanted to say was we can all do something to help if we just do the right thing. And every man in that crew wanted to do the right thing, and I was honored to be on that crew, and I'm honored here tonight. Thank you very much.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.